AFN Mondays at 9.
That, I know.
I was with the company 36 and a half years. People wonder, is it hard planning for retirement? That depends on when you start planning. For me, it was easy. I bought U.S. savings bonds, one a month, every month.
The time to start thinking about retirement isn't when you retire. Invest in U.S. savings bonds now.
Some of the guys didn't think saving was that important back then. Haven't seen them around here lately.
During the war in Vietnam, convoys providing logistical support along Route 19 were attacked so often, the road became known as Ambush Alley. To protect the mile-long convoys carrying ammunition, fuel, and other supplies, the drivers and mechanics of the U.S. Army 8th Transportation Group came up with their own solution. They took supply trucks, welded heavy steel plating to the sides, and mounted machine guns on top. The job of these gun trucks was to drive into battle as soon as an ambush began and return enemy fire. With names like Eve of Destruction and Bad Dream, the trucks soon proved their worth. Their quick response and intense firepower was often enough to thwart an ambush and allow the convoy to continue. The gun trucks played a major role in keeping supply lines open to U.S. forces. By the end of 1968, most of the enemy withdrew and the ambushes all but ceased. A clear victory for the trucks and the brave crews that rode them through Ambush Alley.
The Truth is on AFN, Fridays at 9, The X-Files.
Good evening. Is Iraq cooperating? United Nations arms experts are warning that the issue of access to presidential sites is by no means resolved. In a report to the UN, inspectors say they encountered several problems during the first round of inspections. Diplomats who were to only observe sided with the Iraqis during some disagreements. Also, Iraqi authorities are saying the searches are a one-time deal. The UN thinks otherwise. Arms experts did say inspections were satisfactory. Meanwhile, the U.S. is keeping its sizable military force deployed to Southwest Asia. In every deployment, there are soldiers who rise to recognition because of their dedication. The job of Operation Southern Watch is no exception. Gail McCabe discovered an infantry soldier who is a true advocate of his military specialty. Come with us and meet the Howitzer Man.
In the world of artillery, it's said there's no room for error. One reason why Staff Sergeant Desi Roberts is glad to be an artilleryman.
Well, definitely. We are now operating the most sophisticated artillery piece in the world today. And it's just delighted to be artilleryman.
A native of the Caribbean islands, 24-year-old Roberts began his Army career 6 years ago and has never looked back. His particular weapon is the howitzer, known as the Paladin, capable of launching a lethal projectile up to 18 miles.
You could reach out and just touch somebody. You could put steel on target anytime, any place, anywhere.
He sits as a silent sentinel, a soldier deployed to Kuwait, waiting for whatever the winds of war or diplomacy push his way.
We're definitely prepared.
He's biased. He loves the world of artillery, and in particular his howitzer, and believes everyone else should also.
Because we are the greatest. We are the king of battle. We are #1 on the combat and battlefield.
It's a personal conviction based on pride and the belief there is no better place to be.
Fortunately for me, I chose to be artilleryman.
Gail McCabe, Kuwait.
It's a startling statistic. 1 out of 4 children born in Guinea, West Africa this year won't live to see their 5th birthday. Doctors and nurses on the just concluded exercise, Medflag 98 in Guinea, had heard about the statistic, but wondered how it could be true. As the team ventured daily into the remote regions to treat patients, the answer became clear. AFN's Lon Blair reports.
children everywhere love to play, and that's certainly true in Guinea. But when little fingers go exploring, minor cuts are often a part of the day's discovery. No problem for you and me and our children, but in Guinea, an astonishing number of minor cuts lead to death. How is that possible?
But they put some sort of dung or some sort of pack on it to clean it, or to, you know, it's an herbal, you know, has, I don't know if it has antibiotic effects, but they've been using things like this in the jungle for a long time, but he probably needs something a little more Americanized, I'll put it that way.
In this case, that means antibiotics and a needle to pop the abscess.
And it doesn't look like he has anything open, but you can see how swollen it is. It's real taut. So he either got a bug in there that bit him, or maybe he stuck himself when he was out playing.
Like any little boy anywhere in a similar pickle, this little guy's scared.
It's
okay. He's all starry-eyed at the camera.
It's all over in a few seconds, and soon he's patched up and ready to go.
That's it?
That's it. Hang it off.
Yeah, monsieur.
Okay.
The second child inside of the clinic isn't so fortunate.
It looks like it started out as a small infection around the side of the fingernail, and it went untreated, so it grew. Again, something called a paronychia, caused the nail to fall off, which then again exposed that skin, and now the infection's spreading down the finger.
Left untreated, the infection could steal this little boy's life.
It would probably spread up the arm, then into the blood system, and eventually could even lead to death in somebody this young in this conditions.
The team has been able to help these two boys, but it's the children left unseen who seem to be on everyone's mind.
There's so many kids out there with little things like this. You want to be able to do more.
It makes you feel quite small.
There's so many out there that we don't get to see.
Emotionally for us, that can make for a long day.
Look at these faces and try to remember. 1/4 of them won't see their 5th birthdays. A long day indeed. In Guinea, West Africa, Lon Blair, AFN News.
One of the many benefits of being a service member is the opportunity to experience life in other countries. A few years ago, NATO headquarters north moved from the capital city of Norway to an area near the small town of Stavanger, Norway. When the operations moved, so did a support element of about 40 Air Force members. Senior Airman Lane Arnoff introduces us to a tech sergeant stationed there.
Technical Sergeant Mark Peshman is the chief of supply at this small Air Force facility in Stavanger, Norway. Because of the limited number of people stationed here, Air Force members take on more than what their job titles suggest.
Typically when we have someone who may be out sick, or we're in transition of hiring someone, or for a new position coming open or something, you have to step in and fill those positions.
There's a small law office, tiny post office. Comm is handled by a few Air Force members and a civilian.
620, just one moment.
And the shop ed is actually a commissary, toy store, and base exchange.
Because I'm here, I get to see the big picture of my job. For supply, a person usually go into an assignment, they usually get put in the warehouse, or they get put into one duty section, and that's where they work, and they learn that part very well, but they may not get to see the big picture. Here, we work the whole thing.
Sergeant Peshman says living in the community has some real advantages, too.
Hi, Ronnie.
How was your day at school? Did you learn a lot in school today? Good. What'd you do at recess? Did you?
Sergeant Peshman's wife enjoys the small-town feel of the community.
It's nice because you feel closer to people, like Mark's office and stuff. Everybody knows everybody's wife, and we have little get-togethers every other month or so just for the office, and that's really nice. But I really like it here. I enjoy it here. I really do.
Okay, we got some really nice housing here in Norway. We get an opportunity that probably a lot of people don't get to. The housing here is really big. We do make a lot of money here. We make a lot of cola, but you spend a lot of cola. It takes a lot to live here. The prices are a little bit higher, and you have to adjust your living style.
And the Norwegian scenery isn't bad either. Senior Airman Lane Arnoff, Air Force News, Stavanger, Norway.
We'll have more of the same conditions with a bit more sunshine. Here's the forecast with Air Force Sergeant Debbie Swan.
It doesn't really seem like we're going to get very much change in the weather, though we did see a little bit of sunshine, and there'll be a little bit tomorrow. But as you can see on today's satellite, another system is ginning up over to the west and moving down toward the Iberian Peninsula. Tomorrow, the older system is going to be passing through the area, leaving behind colder temperatures and some rain showers, along with gusty winds here in Germany and the Benelux. A little bit of snow down over the Alps and over the Pyrenees Mountains. You'll have some isolated rain showers down in Spain and Portugal, more rain showers over the Italian peninsula with some isolated thunderstorms in the south, also gusty winds over Sicily, gusting to about 35 miles per hour. Look for some rain showers in the UK, partly to mostly cloudy skies and gusty winds in Norway. Over here in the Balkans, it'll be mostly cloudy with some scattered rain showers and occasionally gusty winds. Those of you in Turkey are going to have partly to mostly cloudy skies, rain showers and thunderstorms in the west and south, some isolated rain showers up to the north and west. Tomorrow's high temperatures over in Turkey are going to range from the mid-60s to the mid-80s. You'll have highs in the 30s and 40s up in the UK, 40s and 50s here in Germany and the Benelux. Down to the south, 30s over the Pyrenees Mountains. Throughout the rest of the Mediterranean, highs will range from the mid-50s to the mid to upper 60s. That's your forecast. Now, let's check out the weather where you are.
Headquartered in Vicenza, Italy, the Combined Air Operations Center keeps watch of the skies over the Balkans region. Even though a welcome stability is spreading, the KAOC still has the mission of providing peace to Bosnia and the surrounding countries. Army Sergeant Marisa Gauna reports.
With the signing of the Dayton Peace Accords, the road to peace in the Balkans has been established.
Particularly as the follow-on force of S4 shrinks in size, the requirement for surveillance and reconnaissance is going to remain very strong.
But the role of NATO has not been diminished. In many respects, the 15 NATO countries supporting the Combined Air Operations Center have even more responsibilities.
Our biggest challenge in the future is going to be converting this militarily controlled airspace into civilian controlled airspace. And the transition process is going to be a very tough one.
As challenging as establishing the peace was, maintaining the peace may be the KAOC's most ambitious achievement.
But the basic things of force protection, battle space awareness, and airspace control are going to remain the foundation of our mission here.
The last 5 years saw witness to many significant achievements from the NATO countries supporting the KAOC. But the next 5 years may see even more accomplishment as the KAOC continues to be used as a template in the peacekeeping process. In Vicenza, Italy, Army Sergeant Marisa Gauna, AFN News.
Recognition as the best in USAFE for doing a great job is always something to be proud of. Well, the 86th Vehicle Maintenance Flight from Ramstein Air Base in Germany has done it 2 years in a row. Airman Jen Hartzell reports on why they're the best.
The 86th Vehicle Maintenance Flight isn't the best just because they're the largest in the Air Force. Their vehicle fleet totals 2,600. Most of their vehicles are at Capone and Ramstein, but they're made up of 30 geographically separated units. They usually have 200 to 300 vehicles in the shop at a time.
There's always vehicles. It's just a never-ending story. It continues and continues. We can fix 2 vehicles today, but 2 more will be in tomorrow. And it's just that they work so hard with the ops tempo. In order to maintain the mission, we've got to keep them rolling.
There's 200 people working in the flight. There are 20 people short in manpower, which makes it a challenge for management and mechanics to keep vehicles on the road.
We're running about a 90% vehicle in commission rate, and that is something that is very amazing for a place that is so spread out throughout the KMC.
Sergeant Panic calls their budget austere, and he says it's hard to fix vehicles when there's no money to buy new parts. That's just one of the reasons why they were recognized.
We use a lot of salvage vehicle parts, utilizing repairs of items, of major components, in order to put the vehicles back on the road to support the mission.
Of course, you can't have the best vehicle maintenance shop in USAFE without good workers and good attitudes.
The quality of the people sometimes really amazes me. They seem to rise to the occasion. When we're working overtime to put out vehicles in a 24-hour period to send on contingencies to any one of the hot spots in the world. We've got people that go TDY. We've got at any one time 7 to 8 people TDY outside of our vehicle maintenance facility.
With their second award as the best vehicle maintenance shop in USAFE, the crews at Ramstein and Capone hope they're at the beginning of a long winning streak. Reporting from Capone Air Station, Airman Jen Hartzell, AFN News.
Soldiers used the Grafenwehr training area in Germany for different types of exercises. Troops from the Southern European Task Force Lion Brigade practiced in a different kind of scenario. Army Sergeant Mike Montello has the details.
All week long, Lion Brigade soldiers engaged in live fire exercises. This time, it isn't in the woods. It takes place in a building. These soldiers are part of a military operation and urban team, or MOUT. To add to realism, these soldiers train with live ammunition.
Prior to any of the live fires, we do several dry fire iterations and blank fire iterations, and what we do prior to those, or during those iterations, all the key leaders, to include some OCs that are put up here, the observer controllers in charge, basically keeping an eye on what's going on.
MOUT teams depend on a great deal of teamwork. Initially, they break down the door and clear the room. After the room is clear, the team moves on to secure the rest of the building.
The realism for the soldiers and the leaders is it's a lot louder than the blank iterations that we do.
MOUT action may not always take place in a field environment. This training gives Line Brigade soldiers a chance to experience urban warfare techniques that they can implement in any foreign locale. Reporting from Grafenwehr, Germany, I'm Army Sergeant Mike Montello, AFN News.
In the Combined Arms Live Fire Exercise, or CALFEX, soldiers focus different types of weaponry on one specific target. CTAF Lion Brigade soldiers are perfecting their CALFEX skills at the Grafenwehr Training Center in Germany. Airman Dominique Dickens has this report on one of their training assaults.
50 caliber machine gun mounted Humvees. And the Army's new M240 Bravo machine guns. Provide the necessary firepower to cut a path allowing paratroopers from the 1st of the 508th Airborne Battalion Combat Team an avenue to follow en route to a live fire assault on their objective.
Doing a live fire of this type, the CALFEX, the Combined Arms Live Fire Exercise, is we get to see and hear the battlefield effects, more of a realistic situation.
This is a long-distance trench clearing mission. While ground troops advance on the objective, the support by fire position rains down a hail of bullets and grenades, causing the enemy to hunker down in their positions.
While they're moving up into the wire to place the Bangalore torpedo that they're going to use to create the breach, we're moving in to our positions and covering their movement with suppressive fires.
After weeks of range qualification and preparation, the live fire assault gives the soldiers a chance to put theory into practice.
Everyone has to be that much more situationally aware as to what's going on, safety reasons, and also for in real battle.
Motivated soldiers, an objective, and live rounds. All the elements necessary to put the finishing touches on 4 weeks of realistic training. Reporting from Grafenwehr, Germany, I'm Airman Dominique Dickens, AFN News.
Debate is raging in European financial circles around the issue of the euro. Which countries will accept the euro as their currency? One country firmly opposed to the change, for now anyway, is Sweden. How will that reluctance affect Sweden's business world? We find out in this report from Stockholm.
Winter is still firmly entrenched in Sweden, and the country is limping behind not only in weather terms but also in politics. The Swedes are still going to be paying with their national currency, the krona, for years to come, and watching their most important trading partners switching to the euro to simplify international transactions. But even if the Swedes wanted to join in with the euro, they couldn't. The country has good economic data, but it's not in the European exchange rate mechanism, and that is one condition for EMU membership. Have the Swedes chosen to place themselves on the sidelines?
The Social Democrats in particular are afraid of being forced to abandon the traditional Swedish model, and that's just what it's all about. A lot of Swedes think we can carry on in Sweden like in the 70s and 80s, with an extension of the welfare state model. But we're realizing more and more that this isn't possible. And now people have found a scapegoat, European Monetary Union. People think that with monetary union, we couldn't carry on like we've done up to now.
The population's enthusiasm for Europe, and especially for the euro, has diminished considerably. Sweden has just recovered from a serious economic crisis. Many Swedes blame the EU because social welfare spending fell and unemployment rose. Now the country has recovered, but Euroscepticism is still there. But big firms in particular see things completely differently. Their government has initially said no to the euro, so they're bringing it in by the back door, as it were. Take Stora, the oldest company in Sweden and one of the country's biggest paper producers. Part of its production and a major proportion of its customers are in other EU countries. It makes sense for the company to switch to settling payments in euros. And from next year, their subcontractors in Sweden are also to conduct their business with Stora in the single European currency. The government is encouraging the companies to adapt, because one way or another they'll be involved with the euro, even if Sweden doesn't join in at first. The firms have to adjust, but the costs fall most heavily on the small companies.
Of course, it's difficult to calculate what we'll lose directly. On the one hand, there are the costs of converting the currencies, and on the other, the administration. And then maybe we might also lack a proper overview, and could lose some contract or other.
It's clear to the entrepreneur. Standing on the sidelines and watching how the euro is going in other countries just won't pay off.
For U.S. Air Forces in Europe news and information, check out the USAFE website.
Most children attend public schools while growing up, but some parents prefer non-traditional education methods, such as homeschooling. Senior Airman Mark Nitro introduces us to a mom at Sembach Air Base in Germany who's using that teaching technique.
Who knows what that is?
Rosa Parks is a teacher and a mom.
Tell what punctuation comes between coordinate adjectives. Okay.
She educates her 6 kids in a home that also doubles as a schoolhouse.
When you finish this one, you have 3 more. Besides the benefit of teaching my own children and knowing that I've taught them all how to read and write, I just enjoy being with my children all day instead of a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the evening.
In this household, the learning never stops.
Form plurals of the following words. Give the other two forms of adjectives listed below. We don't separate school and mom and children like in little bitty categories. They do their work, and if they're hungry, they stop and eat. And I'm still mom, or I'll give them their assignment and go do a load of laundry.
She's been homeschooling for the past 7 years. With things like textbooks and the family computer, she teaches her kids a wide variety of subjects, from social studies to language arts.
Let's go to the next level. We get to spend time with our children. We get to teach them the things that we feel are necessary, not only, academic things, but also family values.
For the Parks, this is a way of life, educating their children and also keeping the family close to home.
Put these in alphabetical order.
Reporting from Sembach, Senior Airman Mark Nitro, AFN News.
Since the 1980s, the Army has increased its mission of protecting the environment while still maintaining a ready force. In some areas, though, the task of training soldiers is more difficult because of protected species living on Army land. Environmental correspondent Jay Harrell reports on one installation which has overcome this hurdle.
With thousands of soldiers training daily, Fort Bragg, North Carolina is known as one of the Army's busiest installations. It's also recognized as having a large population of an endangered species, the red-cockaded woodpecker. Initially, training had to be modified so as not to impact the woodpeckers. But new guidelines put out by the Army are changing that. One of the most important is how long soldiers can train in an area that's considered to be home to the woodpeckers.
The new guidelines do allow training to occur up to 2-hour duration. They can set up hasty defensive fighting positions. They can do just about everything but permanent or a long-term establishment in the area. It's an excellent example of how the two things can coexist and how actually having a military training base here actually enhances or maintains part of a disappearing ecosystem.
As the Army continues its commitment to protecting the environment, it's giving the red-cockaded woodpecker a new lease on life and helping to bring it back from the edge of extinction. Jay Harrell, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Volunteers, important parts of military installations. Many community programs rely on their help. In La Maddalena, Italy, the community is recognizing the hard work done by volunteers. Navy journalist Brian Waite has this report.
Navy members took time out of their busy schedules to attend a brunch at the Rock restaurant recently. The special occasion was to recognize that special group of people that have become such an important part of today's military, the volunteer.
Volunteers offer that spice that we need to make things interesting, to always have events happening. That's what we need volunteers for here.
Over 200 people showed up to show their appreciation and to recognize the important role these people play in our everyday lives.
All of you, look around you, and we see a room full of volunteers. People who willingly dedicate themselves, their time, efforts, care, concern, and love into making our world a better place to live.
Possessing a level of dedication, caring, and concern, today's volunteer is a valuable asset as the military moves to the 21st century.
They offer a relief to the military staff. A lot of times you're caught up in your day-to-day duties and your work, and the phone's ringing, or someone's requesting information that necessarily may not be in your particular department, that someone else can route this person to.
When all was said and done, the title of the program said it best. Our thanks can never be enough as we applaud our volunteers. I'm Navy journalist Brian Waite, AFN News.
Department of Defense-dependent schools strive to give students opportunities to express their creativity. In Kaiserslautern, Germany, kids made sculptures using technology for the Art, Music, Sound exhibit. Senior Airman Michelle Tenpin shows us some of the unique artwork displayed in the exhibit.
Unlike most museum exhibits, these works of art started out as school assignments. While studying modern sculpture, these students created their own unique masterpieces. It took a lot of work.
They had to figure out, how do we make this move? How do we make it look good? What colors do we have to use? What materials do we have to use? Art isn't just something haphazard. It takes a lot of thought.
Each sculpture is made out of stuff that most of us consider junk. They're all surprisingly complex. One creation really stands out. It's a dragon named Flugel. Flugel's body consists of broken chairs, chicken wire, and a typewriter case. He even has hair made of printing keys. Broken umbrellas form his wings.
We can go up to him and coo over him and fuss over him because he seems almost alive, and we've gotten really attached to him.
The artwork is on display through May 3rd. Reporting from Kaiserslautern, Airman Michelle Tenpin, AFN News.
And with that, we wrap up this Thursday's AFN Evening News. From all of us here in Frankfurt, thanks for watching.